Vickers, and I am Faith's mom. And She has four little brothers here as well at home, which I think is a very relevant component of this.
And Mr. Vickers?
I'm sorry?
Sorry, I was just going to say, if Mr. Vickers gives his opening introduction, who he is, what he does, and then we'll go straight into the questioning.
Okay. Sure thing. Yeah, this is Mr. Vickers, Faith's dad. My hobby is set on destroying the Gaunt. I've made that quite clear. But to piggyback on what Mrs. Vickers said, our four other children, they're not in the room or listening to this stream, just so we're clear, because I know there's all this worry about how we're destroying our other children's lives. And that's all I can.
So, just before we went live on air, your wife, Mr. Vickers, told us about a threat that Ethan Ralph conveyed to her. Can you just repeat that, Mrs. Vickers, and just sort of let the world know what type of man Ethan Ralph is?
He's been repeatedly threatening us from the very first email he sent us. Most of them are fairly vague, but the gist of it is that he's going to destroy us, and it's going to take the little boys down with him, or with us. And so basically trying to publicly destroy the character of everybody in this family, including trying to destroy our business by bad-mouthing us. We have already had our business website defaced once. Don't know that it was him directly or if it was one of his supporters. But it's all about destroying us.
Why do you think he wants to destroy you? Why is he afraid?
To be honest, I think all of this comes right down to control, including with our daughter. She wanted control, and so this was the ultimate way of getting it, was to simply flee in the middle of the night and take off across to Virginia. And he, the same thing. It's control. He's trying to bully us to basically backing off and just letting him do what he wants.
Mr. Vickers, do you think that will work?
No. Ethan... I'm sorry. I gave some laughter there and said a big no to that. Ethan Ralph's problem is that the guy has the emotional maturity of a 15-year-old boy. I know, because I have a 15-year-old boy that I guess is more mature than him. But the man can't respond to any attack. He has to respond to everything. I've seen nothing like it before. Every time he's like, I'm not going to talk to you anymore, Vickers. Go to hell. And then I send one more text. He's like, fuck it, I got to respond to this. So he's a giant bitch. And what I've said several times in Twitter, and I've said it to multiple people, silence is the food of degenerates. He is a degenerate. What he wants is, he doesn't want a spotlight turned on his stupid, degenerate gut life to see that the only person that he can get with is a mentally disturbed 18-year-old girl.
Well, just take us on the journey of discovery of how you even find out about Ethan Ralph. Did you know that Faith was in contact with Ethan Ralph prior to her flying out to Guntsville, Virginia?
We did not know. We didn't know who Ethan Ralph was until a day after she got to Virginia. It's nothing that his type of show is certainly nothing that I follow. We don't watch a lot of internet stuff, but no, we had no idea who he was. And in fact, it was a couple days after she got to Virginia that we knew him as Rad Roberts, for those first two days. And honestly, that motherfucker was a little more pleasant than the actual
Max,
Ethan Ralph.
But you're echoing really bad. The chat is going kind of crazy.
As Mr. Vickers sorts that out, Mrs. Vickers, just give me your initial shock, horror reaction to her dating Ethan Ralph.
When I first saw her note that she left, it was just like I went completely numb.
What was the note?
It wasn't about Ethan Ralph. She gave me a completely false story of where she was going and why. That's why we had to do this investigating to figure out where she might be. And then that's when we figured it out. We sent the email to Ethan Ralph, and it's something about, oh wow, you found out who it is. And then, like I said, the threats about, basically stay away from your daughter and don't talk to her. And he's always done this thing where he keeps saying, I didn't tell her not to talk to you. I just suggested it. And so it's interesting that it's like he's trying to walk some kind of moral or legal line that he didn't force her to stop talking to us. But of course, I can't even confirm that or not because I can't talk to her.
With Ethan Ralph, you're peeling back the layers of the onion. First of all, you find out that she's dating a guy who, did you know he was 10 years something older than her? Or like, when did you find that out? Was that immediate or afterwards?
As soon as is that better on the echo side?
That's fantastic.
Perfect. As soon
Have I dropped out or has he dropped out?
He dropped out.
Okay.
Oh,
Right.
there we go.
Yeah, I got his age right away. He's 16 years older than her. He's closer to my age and Mrs. Vickers' age than he is to Faith's age by some years. And Mrs. Vickers has made the point several times. That's why he has to go for the 18-year-olds, because Mrs. Vickers wouldn't give him the time of day. He's a little boy. Mentally.
What is your reaction when you find out that he's 16 years older than your daughter?
Horror.
I don't know. When I woke up, a bunch of shit was broken.
What did you smash up, Mr. Vickers?
Nothing. I'm just kidding. I don't smash up stuff.
Well,
no, we were confused, really. And honestly, when I first found out, I wanted to believe that because the note that she left, and I missed it because I was kicking around with my microphone over here. Did Mrs. Vickers explain in her note what she said she was going to Virginia to do?
I just said it was a false story. I didn't.
It was to meet a friend, wasn't it? I just remember in the timeline.
Yeah, she was going to go to live with her friend Audrey and help her raise her baby, which of course is just completely false.
But first of all, right, just quickly.
Sure.
She's referring to just stuff that you've not even heard of before. Like, you've never heard of Audrey, you've never heard of her wanting to fly out anywhere to raise someone's baby.
No, we
there
had
were no
heard
hints
about
of this.
We had heard about fake Audrey a week before when she had asked if she could fly out to go to a baby shower. That was, I believe, her first attempt to leave, to kind of trick us into sending her off. To which I'm like, flying you out to Virginia for a baby shower? That's nuts.
And for us to help pay for it.
There's been lots of accusations of you being bad parents, but it seems to me that had you have known that she was flying out to meet Ethan Ralph, you wouldn't have allowed that to happen. And she's only done this because she's left a note and fled.
Yeah, no, it would have been a hard no. She knows she would have been in trouble. I mean, as much trouble as I can put an adult child in, just for having a relationship with the guy. Certainly, it would have earned our consternation and our, what the hell are you thinking, kid?
So, Mrs. Vickers, right? You're peeling back the layers of the onion. You find out that Ethan Ralph is 16 years older than her. You find out that he's sort of keeping her. When do you find out that he's an ex-felon? And when do you find out that he's an alcoholic? He's got a gun. Like, when do you find this out? In what sequence do you do that?
So basically, as soon as we figured out Rad Roberts was in fact Ethan Ralph, we immediately did the background search within literally a few minutes. And so that's when we found the criminal history. And then it was within that next 5 days or so, I guess, that I saw the picture of the fucking ugliest men I've ever seen in my fucking life.
How do you really feel, Ariana, about his appearance?
Your animated Pile of dog shit cookie dough or whatever you said was pretty accurate.
Barely legal seeking cookie dough wad of reanimated dog shit is my term.
That's it.
And that's exactly what it is. Like, the man has a bit of flesh hanging from his stomach that I've never seen on another human being ever in my life, and I don't think has ever occurred in history. So it's pretty fucked. I don't have one, and I've given birth to 5 kids. Yeah, exactly. But all of these things do combine to make a very foul potential son-in-law, right? A very foul potential father of your grandchild, right? Because this is what he's saying from those leaks, that he was saying he wants to impregnate your daughter. Are you going to stop that from happening?
Well, not right now, because there's nothing that we can do that would ultimately harm our brothers. Trust me, the instinct is there. To just simply go.
Oh yeah, my mind goes to dark places at night of what I would like to do.
But the consequences
sever that link.
Is too bad.
But what sickens me, right? I would never text my girlfriend's father and say, I'm going to impregnate your daughter. Like, I just wouldn't do this. This is insanity to me. But why does he think it's appropriate to say that to you?
Because he's a 15-year-old. Well, it's power.
It's not even.
He's a 15-year-old.
But he's not even a 15-year-old. I mean, Mrs. Vickers and I started dating when we were 17 years old. I would have been fucking terrified to have talked to her father the way that Ethan Ralph has talked to me. Now, of course, the problem is Ethan Ralph has this stunted emotional maturity, but he still thinks he's a big man, so he wants to try to come at me as a peer and equal when he's just not by any stretch of the imagination.
No, you're like the nega Ethan Ralph, the Bizarro universe Ethan Ralph, who's got his own business and is a successful an upstanding pillar of the community, a man who owns guns, who is allowed to own guns, who hasn't been to prison, who isn't an alcoholic. It's completely different.
And that's allowed to own guns. I was allowed to sell. I just stopped having the license. I mean, I sold guns as part of our shop. That's no easy feat, especially in California.
And this is it. You trained your daughter. I mean, again, we're going to bash away any accusations that you're a bad parent, because you trained your daughter in the art of self-defense. She's gun trained. She's perfectly able to protect herself.
She's well trained. Yes.
But again, she's not allowed a gun at the moment, is she? If Ethan Ralph is, Ralph is banned from having guns as a condition of his probation, right?
Correct. He can't have any himself, and he can't have any in his house, which means if she's staying there, she can't have any of hers.
Well, let's talk about Ralph's house, because we're going on the journey of discovery of who Ethan Ralph was. You find out he's this. Can
we say house with quotes on the end, please?
Well, there we go. You find out he's this monster, and just like the trolls of old, he lives in these squalid conditions under like a bypass. His reaction to seeing the crack shack that your daughter is being forced to live in.
An incredibly appropriate term for it, but
I mean, I'm going to be honest. With you. The reaction to seeing said crack shack was not. That was bad. It's when I started doing the research to find out that the crack shack is a fucking rental that I about lost my mind. At least buy your crack shack.
Well, it's barely even a rental, because I believe it's been foreclosed. I believe there's a massive lien on that house. I believe they're in so much debt trying to pay off the house. Like, I believe like you could probably buy the house, Mr. Vickers, and evict him.
Yeah, well, it's. I have a letter out just to see what my options are. It is owned by a property managing LLC. So the house had. Now I don't know the past ownership history. I haven't pulled that information yet. But I know that it is not owned by Ethan Ralph or his mother. It's owned by an LLC. That's a property management LLC. And I have sent them a letter of interest just to inquire to see if they were willing to sell the property, what they would be willing to sell it for.
I've just got a quick question for Mrs. Vickers, right? During the timeline and whatever Mr. Vickers has been saying about how Faith was and how Faith behaved, it seemed to me that she liked her own space. She liked to be kept away. She just liked to chill out on her own. Is that fair?
In some ways, especially some of the pieces that have been filled in along the way, I swear to you, it seems like I had two daughters.
But I mean, I'm not trying to trick you with this, and we will definitely go into
I get that.
But what I am saying is, she seems like someone who doesn't necessarily likes to be around people 24/7. She likes to maybe go off into a room and chill out and disconnect for a bit, right?
Well, she was going in there to connect with people online. So, I mean, it was going from physical live people, her family, to, she wanted to go in there, but it wasn't to chill out and be alone. It was to talk to other people online.
Well, do you think it's good for her to be constantly around Ethan Ralph to the point where she can't go into the next room because there isn't really a next room? The next room's the mother's room. The place is so small. They have no way to live. There's too many of them there already. Do you think do you reckon she's getting turned off by that, or do you reckon she's really happy to be around Ralph 24/7, having to watch him do his show for 3 hours every night? Do you think she's happy doing that, or do you think she wants her own space for a bit?
No, I don't think she's completely happy with that, because she sent me plenty of texts with, complaints. That she was in her room it was in the room too long without it. Nobody was, talking to her, and these other things. So I think some of that was the mask cracking. That no, it's not paradise over there.
Well, I can't imagine it's paradise, because also it's not just Ralph. It's not just the amazing boyfriend that she's managed to find. There's his mother, who's on dialysis next door. Now, I don't know if she's actually spoken to you about that dynamic. Has she?
Has Ethan Ralph's mom spoke to us? Is that what you're asking?
No. Has Faith referred to Ethan Ralph's mother and getting along with her and how they live together?
Well, I mean, she's indicated that, she's helped her from time to time, and that she was happy that they had a couple of cats. But other than that, she didn't say very much about his mother. I did get very angry at her in one text about, why are you out there helping his sick mother instead of being here where you have two grandmas, one that's elderly, one that has diabetes, and then me, who has chronic autoimmune disease.
Yeah, this is exactly my point, because Mr. Vickers has been saying that, you are ill, and, there are other family members, there are children that could probably use Faith's care a lot more than Ethan Ralph.
Oh my God, her two littlest brothers absolutely adore her and are completely heartbroken and devastated. And I am so tired of having to wipe the tears off their face. Because their sister won't even, the last time I tried to get her to FaceTime the second youngest, she said, no, I'm having a panic attack here. So she wouldn't even talk to him. And then
I'm just going to jump in. I'm just going to let you compose yourself. Ethan Ralph, let's just drop whatever showmanship is going on here. Ethan Ralph, this is the real world effect you have on the people around you. This is what you've done to a girl's parents. People who are pillars of the community, people who've raised their daughter correctly, and you've slithered in there, a snake in the long grass, and you've ruined a nice family. You've ruined these people. And you're not even going to apologize. You're not going to recognize your mistake. You're probably going to tweet out some bullshit meme about how you're a Chad and a winner and a king. You're evil, the Antichrist. And I say that without any irony. I think you genuinely should be back in prison, because that is where you belong. Mr. Vickers, can you just take over?
I certainly agree with the prison part, and not the least bit of which for the revenge porn, which I don't think anybody forgets about it, but I think when they want to think about my motivations for not caring what people say about me and going after them and thinking I'm obsessed, getting hit with videos slammed on your Twitter account, your email, and your Facebook page, Waking up to that on a Tuesday morning in D.C. in the Trump Hotel, not a lot of fun. Doesn't tend to fill somebody with a lack of rage.
So you're referring to the sex tape, right? I can only imagine the horror as a parent, just seeing that and knowing, right, that the man who she's now with has done that to her. I thought that was classic coercion. I thought he'd done that to try and fully control her and make her ashamed to be around her friends and family. Would you agree, or do you think there's more to it?
I think absolutely, because she, I mean, it's not just us she hasn't spoken to. She hasn't spoken to anybody in our family or our really wide network of friends. And I'm sure it's because she's ashamed that she's gone so far outside of what she was taught, not just by us as her parents, but her entire family.
And that's where I think another important thing is that it's not just myself and Mrs. Vickers and her little brothers who were shocked and bewildered by her seemingly out of nowhere choice. This is two grandmothers who have known her all her life. This is uncles who have known her all her life. This is aunts who have known her half of her life. This is cousins who have known her their whole lives, all younger cousins. This is family friends who have known her since she was 1 or 2 years old. This is a good 25, 30 people who thought they knew who Faith was and are shocked to find out the stuff that everybody's finding out.
But with the sex
even her
tape,
high school teacher.
With the sex tape, even with all the stuff that's happened, you're not going to shun her for that. She shouldn't feel ashamed around her own family. Are you going to say that? Or
of course not.
Absolutely. No. That's not the way this family has ever rolled, and she knows it.
Yeah, and it's not the. I mean, you know, I certainly would have preferred it not be with the gun. It's not the sex tape and the existence of it that we find enraging. It is the manner with which it was released for public consumption.
And let's just talk about how it was released, because it was released in a way that entirely implicates Ethan Ralph. It was him. That should not be in doubt. But subsequent to that, he's pretended that it wasn't him. Do you believe in any scenario where it could possibly be that Ethan Ralph did not leak that sex tape?
Well, call me a man of logic. I like to fall back on Occam's razor. And we are left with two scenarios. We are left with the Gunt scenario where he claims he was hacked. And so we're having to say, okay, somebody remote, because, I think Dick at some point theorized that, he was probably joking, but theorized that Faith could have gotten into the phone and got it and then released it. But of course, now we know that Faith was in the hospital, separated from any of her devices. Whether or not she even has had a copy of the video on her devices is yet unknown. But option one, somebody remotely hacked his phone, pulled out one single file, only one, and intended to use it at exactly the right time where it would have implicated Ethan Ralph perfectly, while at the same time hacking two-factor authentication, YouTube password and two-factor authentication, Instagram account. Or some guy who has a history of getting drunk and doing stupid things got drunk and did a stupid thing. So either we got a psychic James Bond level of gun hackery or a dipshit who got drunk.
If we go back to him being a controller, a manipulator, and a predator, just cast your mind back to that tape and notice how it seems to be. He's whipped out his phone, sort of surreptitiously at first, but certainly I don't think she was necessarily aware that that phone was going to come out the moment she did what she was going to do. So, do you agree with that, or do you think that this was consensual? Because I think Ralph did this as a control mechanism to try and keep her.
There's one thing I just wanted to throw out here real quick, which is, again, as the jigsaw puzzle pieces came together. It's very clear in some texts that basically the way that this works is he has something on her and she has something on him. And
right,
so
okay. What do you think she's got on him?
I have no idea. I wish I knew.
Could it perhaps be, and I don't want to go down a dark path, but could it perhaps be that he was in contact with her when she was a minor?
I feel that I can tell you with 99.99% certainty, sadly, I might add, that he was not in contact with her as a minor. It would have been well after her 18th birthday in early to mid-February. And that's based on looking at
Warren. It's a hole that keeps getting deeper because so he's an alcoholic. He's got a very long checkered history with alcohol abuse. What do you think about Faith just not only being around this man, but probably being offered lots of alcohol, whatever medication he's stealing from his mother? Like, what do you think about that, both of you?
Well, I know that, again, that he's given her pretty much all the weed she can ask for. And because she had gotten, after she turned 18, while she was still out here, she had a medical marijuana card for some of her medical issues. So it was legit. But of course, we still went with her to the dispensary and kind of monitored what was going on. She wasn't allowed to smoke anything in the house ever. So we treated it as the medicine for her medical problems while she was here. But of course, when she went to him, it was a free for all. And I do know too that she got drunk to the point of hangover.
Do you think he's using these drugs as a way of controlling her?
I do, yeah. Because the idea is if you're hooked on him, then how is she ever going to want to come back to California where we're not going to provide it or allow dealers to come to our house or something? So I absolutely think that that's part of it.
Mr. Vickers, have you ever in your life considered the possibility of Faith ending up with somebody like Ethan Ralph?
No. Hard no.
There were never any hints that this could possibly be the case.
No.
Yeah,
in her notes, I believe she said that it was something about a toxic dynamic that was happening within the family.
Yes.
Is there any validity to the toxic dynamic, or can we dismiss that out of hand?
We can dismiss it, and in fact, I think one of the more interesting aspects about the quote-unquote toxic dynamic was when she was in the hospital, and really the last time we heard her voice was over the phone for this family meeting at the hospital, where the attending psychiatrist had asked her, why don't you want to go back to California? And she said exactly that. It's toxic. And God bless the doctor, he responded right away, well, what does that mean, toxic? And she didn't have a good answer. Her answer was, well, I'll just go back to being depressed and in my room all the time. The doctor
I really do want to get into the micro timeline of Faith is now in Guntsville, Virginia. She's been there for, I imagine it's 2 weeks. And then you get a call from her where she's saying something about Ralph is using her to cheat on Aid. Am I right on that?
It's by text, but yes.
Yeah, and that would have been, early, very late July, early August, almost 3.5, 4 weeks after.
Did you know who Aid was?
No.
I had read her posts on Kiwi Farms.
Well, okay, right. Before we just get... You're peeling back the layers of the onion. Ethan Ralph, alcoholic, gunt, crack shack, felon. At what point do you find out that he has the largest Kiwi Farms thread on the site? At what point do you find that out? At what point do you start refreshing that thread for daily updates on your daughter? Because that is the most bizarre thing to me.
She actually told us that because we had freaked out. We saw the false information that was on Kiwi Farms about our family. And so, because again, this world is totally new to us. And so we thought that maybe Ralph had posted that or something. We didn't know. And so and so she sent me the link to it and saying, no, these are all people who hate him. That's why they posted it. And both of them kept telling us to shut up about anything about this because we were just going to make it worse.
Layers of the onion, all of these things about Ralph, the Kiwi Farms thread, and now you realize that Faith is in danger because Ralph has probably tens upon thousands of people who just hate him on the internet. He's had a long history of making enemies online, and in reality, let's be honest, in person. Now you realize that he's a sort of hate figure. What is going through your mind there?
I kept just thinking that I can't believe this is my life. I'm still at that point. I cannot believe this is my life.
Well, and more for me, I can't believe this is Faith's life. I mean, it is a complete 180-degree turn from where she was before and the opportunities that were laid out. I mean, what's this? July she left. She graduated high school in May. She's been out of high school 2 months. Yeah, end of May. So a month and a half at the most.
You said she wanted to be a teacher, right? She had ambitions to be a teacher, get into education.
It's what she said. It's hard to tell kind of what's the truth anymore.
But, I mean, she had more, what I'm trying to get at is she had more lofty ambitions than just being with Ethan Ralph.
Correct.
Did she ever express an interest in having a child early?
No, because every time we talked about that we have this large family and the two little ones are still pretty little. And I mean, Faith was 7 when the second youngest was born. So, I mean, she remembers the whole baby thing very well.
She was 12. She was 12, Art.
Oh,
yeah, that's she was 7 when the middle one was born.
Yeah. But anyway, she always said, oh no, I want to be at least 24 before I get pregnant. Probably a little later than that. Because she wanted to go to college and get her teaching degree and everything first. That's what she told us.
It's those immortal words that I think are just going to last forever. I can't believe this is my life now. They are the most affecting words I've heard. They're crushing to the soul almost. Ethan Ralph should not be allowed to do this to people's families, to people's daughters. Let's jump back into the timeline again. She's called you about Ralph using her to cheat on Aid, or she texts you. Does she call you at all? Because I believe you sent her money, right? I forget the number, but you sent her some money over, right?
Yeah, but no, she never called us because that's when she was having her quote-unquote panic attack and wouldn't even talk to her 2-year-old brother. So
you wire her money over so she can book a room, am I right?
Yeah,
in like a hotel around the corner from Ralph.
Yeah, that transfers over kind of to me. That was my interaction with her is step 1, confirm that she wanted to get out of there. She said yes. So we booked her a room at the Richmond, Virginia Westin, transferred $800 or $1,000. At some point it was $1,000, but I think it was $800.
So just quickly, you paid the hotel directly. You didn't give her the money.
No, we gave her the money to check in. We checked into we made the reservation for her because she was having her deal and sad, and we're just better at that. And then transferred the money to her account so that she could just use her card to check in and pay for the room.
Right. Did she do that, or did she use the money for drugs and Ethan Ralph's alcohol?
She checked into the hotel.
Right. Well, that's reassuring, right? But I think you tell her as a condition, you say, I'm trying to remember, You say something like, "Stop interacting with Ralph. We're coming for you. This is it now."
Yeah. So the night that we saw, I basically advised her, go to the hotel, check in, block him, don't tell him where you're going, and let us know when you're there. Next morning comes along, that all happens fine, and then we ask, do you want us just to get you a ticket and fly you home, or do you want us to go out and pick you up? She specifically says, I would like you guys to come out and pick me up. So we buy 2 tickets on the way there. We prepay for 3 tickets on the way back. And that's when I suggest, things are still a little raw with the brothers here. Why don't we come out? We'll get you. Mom and Mrs. V and I, we've never been to DC. Why don't we spend a couple days at DC? I'll get us a posh hotel. It'll be really cool. We'll do what sightseeing we can with COVID going on and stuff. But we'll reconnect a little bit. We'll work some shit out, because obviously there's some stuff that needs to be worked out, now that we have more information. And let's do that. And that these were demand. I didn't say, here's what we're going to do. I said, is this what you want to do? Both to Mrs. V and to Faith. And all 3 of us agreed to this plan. And that's why we were just so shocked when we got out there and later found out what we found.
Mrs. Vickers, as you're making the plan, is there any doubts in your mind that Faith will not be coming home with you?
Oh, absolutely. I thought at best we had a 50-50 shot she'd actually come back.
Why did you think that? Because what I'm saying is here, she's not just asking, for her to fly back solo. She's asking for you to fly out yourselves to come and collect her. That seems more concrete than the previous option.
I was much more optimistic than Mrs. Vickers was. Mrs. Vickers was worried the whole time that she was.
Why were you 50-50, Mrs. Vickers?
Well, and it went down to 25-75, but because when we were flying out to Virginia, we had a stopover, and all of a sudden she had turned off sharing location. And then she made up some story about she was driving around with some friend. And then the next thing we know, she's saying she's over at Ralph's house trying to get more of her stuff, which of course is exactly what her dad told her not to do. And
quickly, how much stuff did she take to Ethan Ralph's house? Did she take a full suitcase or what?
It must have been a pretty full suitcase.
It was a medium-sized suitcase that actually would have been suitable for carry-on. I don't know whether she carried on or not. Right. It would have been that, her backpack, and a purse.
Right. Yeah, so this wasn't like, if this was a massive suitcase, I'd be asking you, why didn't you hear her packing? Why didn't you hear her, shovel this suitcase out of the house? That's what I'd ask.
It was the middle of the night. And we were sleeping in her bedrooms all the way across the house from ours.
So it was a literal midnight flit. Absolutely crazy. A literal moonlight flit.
I last saw her in our house at 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning. I had gone out there to take a shower in the middle of the night. And I didn't see anything weird. What was weird was she was really animated when she was on her phone. And I said, who are you talking to at this time? And she said it was not him, it was somebody else. And I mean, I had heard that guy's name before, so I wasn't really freaked out about it or anything. And came back to bed, and next thing I know, my daughter's gone.
Mr. Vickers, we're going to go back to the point where you have flown out. You've arrived in Guntsville, Virginia. You meet her where? Does Ralph drop her off in an Arby's car park or what?
While he's digging through the trash for his trash burgers?
No, we got into Virginia at 5:30. We got over to the hotel at 6:30, and we texted her and said, we're here. And she's just I'm kind of tired. So I just kind of want to go to bed. I'm not really ready to see you guys yet. Jesus Christ. Okay, well, I would have made a bigger deal about it, but Mrs. Vickers was tired.
This
Honestly,
is very odd to me. When I read that on your timeline, I was so perplexed. You've flown out there. You know, you've had to take a stopover to do so. It's taken you hours. You spent lots of money. You've been worried sick about your daughter for God knows how long, maybe 2-3 weeks, right? You finally get to see her, and she doesn't even see you. She stays in her room.
Stays in her room now, and mind you, I'm writing a lot of this off as she's ashamed, she's embarrassed, and that's part of what's going to have to kind of heal over these next 3 to 4 days.
Well, what would you have, like, as a dad and as a mum, right? What would you have given her a bit of banter over? That Ethan Ralph had a gun, that it was Ethan Ralph? Like, what would be the main bit of banter that you'd have ribbed her for?
At that time, nothing. We were just happy that she wanted us to come get her. I wasn't planning to give her any grief at all. At the very least until we got her back to California. But I mean, and we didn't do it. In fact, we saw her the next morning. She took her till noon 30 to get out of her room. But we just went down there and gave her a hug, and then loaded up the rental. And yeah, Ariana's crying, and that's when I kind of noticed that her face was just, emotionless. It was started. She didn't see that I saw her face when she was hugging her mother. And again, I wrote that off as she's just embarrassed, she's uncomfortable, whatever. But then we loaded up the rental, and everything kind of got lighter, on the 2-hour drive to DC from there. There was enough little stuff moving through that made me it made my optimism start to wane.
Mrs. Vickers, when you're hugging your daughter and you're crying and you're thinking, I finally got her back, did you sense what Mr. Vickers was seeing, the void of emotion face? Did you sense that she was cold? Was she embracing you back, or was she just...
A little bit, but it like he said, it seemed like there was something wrong. It wasn't what you would have expected for somebody who was trying to get away from this guy, and you finally came and rescued her, and she's going home. It was just kind of like, hi, how are you?
Right. Now, this is going to be fucking touchy. I apologize for swearing in front of my elders, but this is going to be pretty crazy. At this point, right, she had said, or at least Ralph had said on his Twitter to you, Mr. Vickers, that, it's funny because she told me you beat her, right? That had come out at this moment in time, before you'd flown out.
That was my first Twitter. So we got to kind of rewind a little bit, if that's okay, just a very little bit.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine, Mr. Vickers. This is a very radioactive topic. Sure.
No, we found out shortly after she left that she had been telling people that I, in particular, abused her, and there's been other, and it's a variety of different abuses. I've done everything from yell at her and send mean text, which that's true because I'm a parent, to punching her so hard that I've knocked her across the floor and knocked her unconscious. And everything past yelling and an angry text is not true. So the gun, when he first made contact as the infamous Rad Roberts, had said that he has all this proof. Of course, my immediate reaction is, I fucking know no proof is out there because it's never happened. So, come at me, I guess. Yeah, what do you got? And of course, that's why nothing specific ever gets mentioned. But shortly after, a couple weeks into that, Mrs. Vickers had a phone conversation with Faith. This is well before DC by a couple weeks, and Faith had told her via text. So we have this from Faith via text. I told Ralph that Dad never hit me. Done. That was a lie. That Ralph was under the impression the whole time from that point that I was still this abuser, and that's why when I was trying to call him out and kind of goad him and poke him and prod him to try and respond to me in those original July tweets, he'd come back out and posted that, you beat your daughter and shit. but it's why he removed it, because right after he did that, and I said, saddle up your lawyers, son, because that's defamation. That's when Faith went to him and said, no, he never did that, which is why we're curious why his current threats include that Faith's going to make some statement about abuse, because I don't know how we got back around to this thread after everything and why, if he even believes it or why he would at this point. It's very interesting.
Mrs. Vickers.
Yes.
With Faith's comments about apparently, allegedly, I mean, it's all false, but we're just going to parrot it. Her father beat her. Who was she closest to? Was she closest to you growing up or Matthew?
Actually, ironically, her dad. Ever since she was a baby.
Oh, yeah, no, she was my buddy. We enjoyed horror movies together. That was kind of our thing. She was the artist. That was my thing when I was growing up. She shared a lot more similarities, I thought, personality-wise with me. I never ran off and married a gunt, but nobody's perfect.
What gets me is that a lot of teenage girls obviously say stuff they don't mean. They will tell lies, white lies and stuff like that. What gets me is that Ethan Ralph is 16 years her senior, and maybe he should have fact-checked that instead of broadcasting it over his Twitter of 50,000 followers on a verified account. That's why I think there's a bit more blame on Ethan Ralph, to be honest, I have to say.
Well, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that he participated in the deception that led to the Southern California visit between the two of them.
And to be clear on your last comment, we absolutely hold Ethan Ralph more culpable to this entire freak show than we hold our daughter. She's 18. There's still plenty of chance for her to turn things around. There's a future that could be bright and far ahead of her. Ethan Ralph, I mean, he's set his future. It's done. That's a really hard point to change by the time you're 34, and that's just the life that you've built and you're used to.
Yeah, he's white trash. He's just out and out white trash. And there's zero way that he should be allowed to ruin a father-daughter, a mother-daughter relationship that should last the rest of your lives. There should be no need for Ethan Ralph to come between that. And we'll stop getting on the soapbox now.
If this can get in any way to his fucking piece of shit mother, I do not know how that woman sits there as another mother, knowing what's going on in the room next to her, and doesn't try to intervene in any way, not even fucking contact us and say anything like, I'm trying to make sure that she's safe or anything. So I have no respect for his piece of shit mother.
Yeah.
I would say
strong
white
words,
trash
strong
apple.
sentiments.
I would say that the white trash apple does not fall far from the white trash tree.
All right. We're going to get back into a bit of structure. You check into the Trump Hotel. This is amazing, right? Just first of all, what is the decor like in the Trump Hotel? I mean, have you stayed in Trump hotels before, or is this a first-time experience?
It was the first time, yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty.
Was it everything it's advertised as? Because they look pretty great to me.
That one looked pretty great to me.
Yeah, it exceeded my expectations. It's obviously it's a beautiful building. It's the old post office, but the customer service is off the chain. It's the best customer service I've ever experienced, and not the most expensive hotel we've stayed in, which also had good customer service, but not like this place.
But what a great sort of trip to have. You're reconnecting. You're in Washington, D.C. You're staying at the Trump Hotel. It sounds pretty great. But I think if I remember correctly, she says something about, I need to go to dinner with my friends or something like that.
That was on, we checked in Saturday, and that was Sunday after we had gone and visited what we could that was close to the hotel, which was basically everything from the Washington Monument. You could go into the Washington Monument, you can look at it.
Did you know she had friends in Washington, D.C.?
Brand new friends, yeah. Her, I think, what is it, Digibro and his... pseudo wife, and May. She called it. Is her name May and Gray? That's how we only knew of them as May and Gray at that point.
So I mean, whoa, Digibro, right? I don't know what if you're in the loop about the shitstorm around Digibro, but the guy essentially advocates for paedophilia, right? I mean, the guy.
We understand that now. Yeah,
he's got
the whole
very
controversy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got some crazy fetishes and stuff like that. He's also older than Faith by a few years, right? Do you think she's safe calling him a friend? Her a friend? Sorry, I won't misgender him to get Phantom's channel taken down. Sorry, Phantom.
Her judgment is obviously very seriously compromised. I don't know how much of it is character and how much of it is mental illness. Obviously, as her mom, I kind of hope it's mental illness and that it can be fixed. No, I don't think she's safe in the slightest.
But these friends aren't her friends. These friends are his friends. His friends are Digibro and the other degenerates that live on the internet. These aren't her friends.
Yeah, she just calls them her friends because she met them through him. And, of course, she's without any other friends out there. So I think she's trying to at least pretend she has friends right now.
So you're thinking she's got these friends in Washington, D.C. that she wants to go and have dinner with, even though she's now in your custody. Like, do you allow this to happen? I can't remember. Do you actually allow this to happen?
No, what I had said was, well, because I still had been monitoring it. Well, between me and then I only have so much time in the day, especially on busy days when Kiwi Farms explodes. So if I'm not monitoring it, I have several friends who monitor and then report to me if there's anything that I need to know. And so one of my friends had gotten back to me that day and said, he's apparently going to be in DC on Sunday with the May and Gray people. And so that's what I said to her. And I said, well, no, I'm not. I mean, I'd rather you not. You're an adult, but we're here to pick you up. And Ralph's going to be at this dinner. Did you know that? And she immediately said, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that fucker was going to be there. I don't even want to see him. And then she backed right away from that idea.
Right. Did that seem pretend? Did that seem feigned? Or was that genuine?
It seemed forced. It seemed a forced response she seemed surprised that I knew that information and then reacted to it. That's when, at that point on Sunday afternoon, is when my suspicion started getting kind of built up.
Right. Well, let's get into that then. What are the circumstances that lead to her leaving your custody again and going back to the guns?
All right. So this would have been Sunday afternoon. We were wiped the fuck out from walking all over DC. So we got back to the hotel, relaxed a little bit, got some lunch, and Mrs. Vickers went to take a bath and slipped in the bath and twisted her back. And she basically said, I'm out. No dinner for me. I'm not going to walk down a couple blocks. I'd rather just sit here and rest. I said, all right, well, Faith and I can connect and keep this dinner reservation.
I remember, too, I cried with her at that point because I felt really bad. I couldn't go to this nice dinner with her.
Yeah, she was very...
She said, why are you crying? And I said, first of all, this whole situation is insane and incredibly painful for me, but also because you've been gone and I wanted to spend as much time as possible with you right now. And she told me, don't worry, it's okay. I'm coming home and we can spend a lot of time together.
So we went, her and I, Faith and I, we went down to the restaurant, had a great meal. It's a nice place. I've written about it, made my jokes about it, and headed back to the hotel, and then everybody went to sleep. I really since July 9th of this year have not slept more than 3 or 4 hours a night for obvious reasons. So I was constantly up, and my buddy is on the East Coast, one of the ones who does the most monitoring of kiwi farms. So he was texting me and saying, "Hey, you need to look at this." And that's when I saw that Ralph was saying, because of course my favorite hashtag on kiwi farms at the time was hashtag Faith Escape. That made me laugh a lot. And then he's trying to own the hashtag Faith Escape by saying, "Oh, she's going to be back on Monday." Well, of course, that's tomorrow.
We're supposed to be leaving.
We're set to leave on Tuesday.
Early Tuesday. Yeah, sorry.
So that didn't sit well with me. So I went ahead, and we were just in a 2-queen bed, regular room. Mrs. Vickers and I, of course, in one bed, and then Faith had her own bed. And so I went, and probably about 3 a.m, kind of went over there, and this girl, and maybe all 18-year-old girls are like this, sleeps with her phone clutched in her hand like a fucking eagle's claw perched on a branch. I mean, it's unbelievable.
So even as she's unconscious, she's gripping the phone.
It's an actual grip. I had to slowly, and I'm talking like a millimeter a second, pull this phone out of her hand. And it was, I mean, it required force to remove the phone. It was not just resting in her hand. Her hand was, my dad, my old man, used to fall asleep constantly. He was well known for it, with a Budweiser in his hand. And we always marveled that he never dropped that fucking Budweiser. And it's like, so Faith's Budweiser is this phone. So I got the phone finally out of her hand, and her laptop was like on her hip, on top of the blanket. So I unplugged the laptop, and I took that.
Well, Matthew, I believe your words during the timeline were like a sly, fat, white ninja, right?
I can confirm the fat white ninja part. I probably put sly in there. Yes, but fat white ninja for certain. Sly is probably implied by ninja. I may have written it all. But yeah, got him. Put him in the safe, hotel safe, with a code that she wouldn't know, and got my own sleep. Woke up in the morning and told Ariana what I had done, Mrs. Vickers. Told her what I had done, and Mrs. Vickers goes, "She's going to flip out." I said, "Yeah, I know, but I'm hearing that she's going back, on Monday." So Mrs. Vickers is kind of freaking out at this point.
Do you tell Faith that you've read Ralph's tweet?
The tweet, or that I have suspicions based on kiwi farms?
No. Do you tell Faith that you know that Ralph has just said, "Oh, that's funny because she's coming back to me on Monday"?
I do eventually, yeah. Yeah, it's after I let her wake up and look for her phone like she's looking for some kind of life-saving medication. But first what I said, because I didn't want to really confront that issue. I wanted to kind of pull the truth out. Sounds like I'm still echoing. Hang on. Am I echoing on that side?
I'm not hearing an echo. Are you hearing an echo, Phantom?
It's not so bad. I don't think it's so bad.
Okay, cool. Then I'll just keep talking. So she got up and I said, "Well, I took your phone, I took your computer, I locked them away. I would love, because there's been so much lying and stuff, and we're trying to reconnect, I would love to play a little trust exercise and have you go 24 hours, just 24 hours without your phone and without your computer." And, of course, in the back of my mind, I'm like, because we're going to be bouncing the fuck out of DC in 24 hours. We're set to leave the next day. And she's like, "I don't like that." Okay, why? So I gave her a notebook and I said, "Write down every bad thing that will happen if you don't have your phone for 24 hours, you don't have your computer for 24 hours. But while you're doing that, I want to email Ralph." And I want to email Ralph because he agreed, according to her, that he was going to ship her stuff back. And I said, "Well, that's not fair that he has to pay for that. So I'm going to offer to pay for that." And I already knew.
Just quickly,
Yes.
Mr. Vickers. Mrs. Vickers, did you think that was a good idea to get back in touch with Ralph?
If it was one of us and it was solely about offering to pay for the shipping to ship her stuff back to us. I thought that that was fine. Obviously, her being involved in the communication with him, absolutely not.
How much would it have cost for the shipping? How much stuff was there to ship back?
It wouldn't have mattered because I knew that the answer was going to come back. What do you mean ship her stuff back? But I mean, a couple hundred.
Right.
Bucks
So it was you were calling her bluff essentially.
I was yeah, absolutely. I was calling her bluff, and as repugnant and shitheaded as I find the Gunt at that time, so far as I knew, and I found that I was somewhat wrong about this in the future, he was being honest with me. And so that's when he and I started comparing notes, because of course his email came back, I don't know what you're talking about. She said she was going to be back with me by 4 o'clock today. Okay, one of us is getting grifted. I just don't know who it is yet. And then it kind of went downhill from there.
You describe it as a meltdown of discovery and lies. It's the worst feeling in the world to be tricked by someone you expect to trust unconditionally, right? To be, I mean, having flown all the way there and done all of this, we get to the point now where does she threaten suicide or she's going to harm herself or something like this? What leads to her being checked into that psych ward?
She hits a point when, and especially, it's only happened 2 or 3 times before this, pre-Gunt as I call it, where she just shuts down. She refuses to answer questions. She refuses to look you in the eye. And then eventually the tears start flowing. And we're like, well, all we want is an answer. We just want to know what your plan was, what you were thinking. Because either you're hurting us or you're hurting Ralph. Now, we could give a shit about you hurting Ralph, but, we just kind of want to know what's going on. And so she says, I really want to hurt myself so bad right now. I want to jump out that window. To which I'm like, I don't think that's going to work. It's a pretty thick window. But that's when...
Well, Mr. Vickers,
yes.
Was that a serious threat?
No. My wife and I, we both called bullshit in our heads. But at this point, Mrs. V kind of took over. I'm going to take a bathroom break, and I'll let her explain it from here.
Right. So basically, at that point where she starts saying, I want to jump out the window and I feel like hurting myself, and the only thing that'll make me feel better is to talk to him. And we said, no, we're not letting you get a phone to call him. So she said again, but that's the only thing that's going to make me not feel like hurting myself. And I said, well, then we're calling 911, or you've got to get yourself down to the car and we're going to ER.
So again, was this a call your bluff situation, Mrs. Vickers, or were you genuinely concerned?
I'm a little bit of both, because I'm concerned about, obviously, her mental stability to even be making those statements and threats. And, the biggest thing in all this is, I have this child who he gave everything to, and she doesn't seem to give a damn about hurting any of us. It's all about what she wants and how she's hurt. And if she has to hurt one of us to be happy, that's perfectly fine. And so I thought it was a bluff. It was emotional hostage taking, which, again, she had a history of doing a few times before this. And I actually worked in ER for 5 years. So I said, if anybody else heard this or heard that you had made these comments and I didn't take you to ER, I would be looked at as the world's worst mother who ever lived. And so she agreed to go over to ER. And so we got her in the car, drove her over. And of course, they wouldn't let me go back with her, stay or anything because of COVID. So basically, I gave them the insurance card and they took her back. And they said they'd call me in a couple hours to update me, and nobody did. So I finally called, and they pretty much said they couldn't tell me anything. So, and I said, well, somebody was supposed to call and tell me what was going on. That's what I was told. And so she pretty much said, well, I don't care what you were told. We're not telling you anything.
So that would have come from Faith, wouldn't it? Because she would have been able to say, I don't want my private details to be revealed to these people, right?
Probably, again, after having worked in the field for 5 years, and my dad was an ER nurse and everything, sometimes it's just the nurse's attitude.
Right.
Depending on what
but
she
was
had
she
told
considered a danger to herself?
She must have been to some point, because they were able to mandate a hold and check her into the psych ward for time she was there, or at least part of the time she was there. She was there under a psych hold.
Right. So I think in this country that's known as a section. So she was essentially sectioned, right?
Well, in the state of California, it's called being 5150'd. I know in a lot of other states it's being called Baker Acted, but it's all the same thing.
Just quickly, any history of mental illness or cognitive malfunction with Faith prior to this? When she was growing up, has she had depression? Has she had bipolar disorder? Has she had any sort of mental illnesses?
I'll try to touch a little lightly on this, just because it is her medical history. But there was certainly at least some indication of possible mental illness, which we did address, because that's one of the things that when we had our family meeting with the psychiatrist, that we did explain to them, is when she indicated that she was having symptoms, we took her to her doctor. I paid for online therapy, when COVID came along. So again, we did attempt to help her. So any picture
this is what I was trying to say. There are people who would say they've been bad parents, she's been mentally ill, and they've done nothing, and this is why it's gotten to this situation. But what you've told me is she's shown signs of that very rarely, and when she's shown signs of that, you've done the decent thing as good parents, checked her into ER, paid for therapy, done your best. That absolutely stands up.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why the attending kept telling her that the best place to go back to was with us, because I already had a plan in place for getting her help. I mean, I was ready to go the minute we touched down in Sacramento. Again, I was ready to go with a plan to help her. Of course, gut loser doesn't even have insurance, so what is he going to do? And he actually sent one text to us too, downplaying any mental illness that she has. So that's one of the reasons why I highly doubt that he has gotten her any help whatsoever.
It's a crazy situation. It's so horrific. If she did fall ill, who's paying for her health care? Him or you?
Oh, I honestly, right now, the insurance company would give us a month after he became independent, which would be the time where he moved in with him. And so the hospital bill, I don't really know if they're going to deny it or not, because what they do is at the start of the school year is they send you out a form. You have to get signed by the registrar that you're a full-time student to be able to stay on your parents' health insurance.
Right. Is she enrolled in a college?
She was. I don't know what she told me. She had some plans to try to continue to do it online, because the college is not doing live classes because of COVID. So even though that college is much next to us, she thought she could get away with at least one semester of that. Now, of course, the insurance company is going to send me the proof of attendance or whatever. So, I mean, really, at that point, she kind of has to talk to me about it. So I don't really know.
Because we're talking about thousands, I assume.
Oh my God!
Dollars.
Yeah. Like I said, I worked in a hospital, so I have a good idea of what that bill's going to come up to. And even the copay on it, I mean, I'm not financially responsible for it because she's 18. And so they're going to send her a huge fucking bill for that co-insurance. And I don't know how on earth they're going to cope. Other than that, they assured me that he just fucking stiffs hospitals and goes to a different one, so it doesn't matter. This is
what Ralph has said. These are his words. Mr. Vickers, are you still there?
I am. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think Mrs. Vickers' mic dropped off there for a second. I stopped hearing her.
Right. Well, that's actually fine because I did want to get your thoughts weighing in on this. Right.
Sure.
So she's in the psych ward. You know, they are saying, you know, she's better off with you. There's this massive hospital bill. Do you think you'll end up paying for this, or do you think it's all on Ralph now?
Well, I mean, technically, it's going to be all on Faith. Legally, unless they get married and he decides to marry into sharing the debt, it's technically her. It's technically her debt.
What occurs during the psych evaluation? I believe you have to do a sort of. It's not even a round table meeting, is it? It's like a Skype meeting, from what you describe.
It is much like exactly what we're doing now, but with doctors.
So was she not on camera?
No, there were no cameras.
So the setup is you, your daughter, Mrs. Vickers, and what, a doctor?
It is our daughter. Yeah, our daughter at the hospital with at least one resident, at least one attending, a psychiatrist, and then
there were medical students there too.
Multiple medical students, and then my wife and I on the other end of it.
And without getting too intimate, what is the discussion about? Is it about strategy? Is it about, you know, confession? Is it about you are evil? Is it about I am troubled? Or is it just a vague, you know, this is what we've done?
Yeah, it went pretty much like you would expect a family therapy meeting to be. It was controlled, well, not controlled, I'm trying to think, adjudicated, maybe a better term for by the attending physician, who basically, Mrs. Vickers, what are your concerns? Mr. Vickers, what are your concerns? Faith, what are your concerns about Mr. and Mrs. Vickers' concerns? And then what his concerns were about the entire situation.
So what did she exactly say? What was her... Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and I was just going to say, and then it finished up, of course, with the judgment that she should come home with us and that they would do their best to try to make her see the light.
Yeah, that's the most sensible option, of course.
We're surrounded by reasonable people. They know about the sex tape at this point.
Oh God! I thought the sex tape had come afterwards.
Oh no! It was.
You checked her into the psych ward, right?
We checked her into the psych ward.
You think she's getting the help she
and that was Monday. And the sex tape was released. Yeah, Monday night. So Ari's first contact, or I'm calling her by her nickname now, Mrs. Vickers' first contact with the doctors on Tuesday morning while we were moving to a different hotel was, now we're really worried because this sex tape is out there. And I mean, we're not saying don't tell her about it, but we don't want this to break her if she's in actual crisis. And the doctors did tell her about it. And of course, she had talked to the gun before this family meeting, and he had pitched her the whole hacked scenario. And even the doctor, the attending, was like, that's possible, but it's highly improbable. And so he's trying to be reasonable with her, but you've only been out here a month, and all this stuff has happened.
So just You're having this meeting with Faith and the doctors. You know about the sex tape, but you've not told Faith about the sex tape. Do you bring up the sex tape to the doctors?
No. She knew about it because this is Thursday or Friday, Ari, that we had Friday. It's Friday that we had the meeting. It's Monday that she checked in, but it was Tuesday that she learned about the sex tape. So she's known about the sex tape now, as well as the doctors have, for 3-4 days.
Did you talk to each other about the sex tape?
No.
I'm sorry, you say.
I mean.
Oh, okay. No, I don't think we brought that up. They brought that directly up. Because the only time we talked to Faith while she was in the hospital was during that family meeting because she refused to talk to us.
She refused all contact?
Yes.
Yeah, she
on what grounds?
She just said she didn't think she could handle it, is what she told the resident. And even though the resident was trying to encourage her to talk to us, and instead she was spending, apparently, this is again what the resident told me, very significant amount of time on the phone with Ralph, though, while she was in there.
What were her points of contention during that family meeting? Like, did she say? Did she say, "Oh, you're toxic. You've been beating me. You don't know who I am"? Did she say any of that?
She didn't really have any clear complaints. We suspect she tried to pitch the whole beating scenario because when the doctors talked to Mrs. Vickers at first, they asked her a lot of questions about how aggressive I was and everything else. But I mean, during the meeting, the attending physician was saying, look, abusive parents don't fly across the country on beck and whim to come and rescue you. That doesn't make sense. And she did not directly say anything about abuse. All she cited as her concerns of returning to California were the toxic environment that she could later then not actually explain with any specificity.
Other than that, she didn't want to be back in her room. And what's maddening about that is before she left, she had promised my 82-year-old mother she would go live with her while she went to college so she could keep an eye on my mom and my mom could keep an eye on her while she was launching into adulthood. So, I mean, the claim that, oh my God, I have to go back to my house and back to my room and everything, that was an utter lie.
Do you not think that she is just being I know this is going to sound crazy, being a normal teenager, rebelling? She was homeschooled, right? You know, she seems to have had a very sheltered life, and now she's finally rebelling and all of this. Do you not think it's a phase, or do you think there's something more?
Well, first of all, she was public schooled until 9th grade, except for 1 year. And then in 10th grade, because she was having problems at that high school with a boy, and she begged and begged and begged not to have to go back there again because he was there. And I had tried to talk to the school. And of course, the school can't tell you what they're doing to fix the situation because it's a violation of his privacy. So we said, well, if it's not going to stop, then we're just going to have to take her out of school. And so when we did that, then we put her into homeschool again.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. TV decided to turn on all of a sudden. Sorry.
But like I say, right, do you think she's acting out, she's rebelling as a teenager, or is it deeper?
I think it's a combination of that kind of natural part, because I remember being an 18-year-old girl. Again, I got married at 21, so I did things kind of early. But remember, I've known my husband since 6th grade. So, it wasn't that I knew him for 5 months on fucking line. I had been with this guy, at least as a friend, and then eventually as a girlfriend, since 6th grade. So I don't see that as, oh, well, it's just, the apple falling from the tree. But I think the mental illness is complicating that normal developmental stage. And throwing it out of whack, if you will.
100%. That is my take, and I have batted on that take. A person raised by you two upstanding people who has normal cognitive abilities will not end up being under the control of Ethan Ralph. He is a predator, and likely if it wasn't Ralph, it would be someone else as a predator. Very susceptible people fall into very dark places.
Yeah. And sadly, I agree with you. If it wasn't him, it'd be some other piece of shit.
But it's a shame that the person she has decided to shackle up with is this notorious presence, is this public figure, and it doesn't seem to be in any way a safe person to be around. I'll just be honest. The sex tape is out there. You have his phone number. Do you call him? Do you try and just go, what are you doing? What's the matter with you?
Well, he blocked us of course, before we went out there, she had her phone. So, we were trying to communicate with her through her phone. And she blocked us for several days after she got out there. That was part of the problem. I mean, she didn't even have the courtesy or kindness. Think, maybe I should let my parents actually get text with me if I'm refusing to talk to them. At least they could text with me. Nope, she blocked all communication because, again, it's about what's best for her. He did not care that we were desperately hurt and scared and confused and all of these things. It was, basically didn't want to hear us for all the very valid reasons that what she was doing was stupid and that she needed to come back here because that would interfere with what Faith wanted. And that is the ultimate goal for her right now, is what Faith wants.
Does Faith honestly want videos like the one Ralph leaked to be out there? I mean, this does not seem like something anyone would want.
Well, she has convinced herself to believe the hacked thing. She doesn't even believe he
Mr.
did
Vickers
it.
does. I think you do text Ralph, don't you, or something?
Oh, I've texted Ralph. I texted Ralph constantly until I decided that there was no point anymore, and I'm sure now he has me blocked because every time he texts me, I just share it. You
text Ralph. What do you say? Like, what is the matter with you? Why have you done this? Like, what's going on with you? Why would you leak this about? My first question to him, because I didn't have all the details. I woke up to the links to this fucking video blasting me from all angles, and my first question to him was, "How the hell did this get out?" And then I went back, and my buddy who was monitoring the farms and I put together kind of a timeline of what happened. I got links to go back to the streams and watch what happened, and then it became very clear that he did do it. And I asked him straight up a couple times, hey, just, because I like to lure people into a false sense of security, did you do it? Just because right now I don't really care if it's going to help get her home. Because Ralph had agreed he'd agreed the day after the tape that it was best for her to come home because he viewed her, I think, as a liability at that point. But he just said, I'm going to, my legal counsel says stand on my Twitter. Okay. So he couldn't get him to admit to it. But most of my interactions from that point were trying to convince him that she needs to come back. And as soon as we found out that she had signed herself out of the hospital, AMA, we knew he was getting her. That's when I stopped contacting him and started contacting authorities about the sex tape and working as many different angles as I could to figure this thing out. Now, I'm glad we're getting into this because you did say that you would address what you've been doing with the law and what inroads you've. Do the law recognize that what Ralph did was revenge porn?
The law in Virginia recognizes that it's revenge porn if and only if the victim depicted in the porn is the one who comes forward. And have any of the people you've contacted given you any sort of hints or advice or ways forward regarding this? Not really. I mean, other than they seem to think, and I tend to agree. I don't think their freak show has the legs to outlast the statute of limitations. So I'm hopeful that whenever and whatever happens that makes her kind of see the harsh, dark light that she's helped put herself under and that he's put on her, that she goes, well, now I'm going to have to bury this fucker, because then I'll be like, oh, we're all on board. Let's get this done. Legal fees aplenty. I'll pay up all day long. But until she comes forward, unless she decides that she is going to be the one to press charges of it, my hands are tied on that end.
How long is the statute of limitations, Mr. Vickers?
According to the probation department and the police department, it's 3 years. I've read other things in the Virginia code that say 2 years, so it's between 2 to 3 years.
So if she leaves him within that time span, that's a sword of Damocles over his head.
Yeah.
Well, and I believe the probation department told Matt that given his history that they would be very proactive about any report on that revenge porn.
Oh, yeah. What they specifically said was if she reports it, they will go serve him with a warrant for his arrest immediately because he's on probation.
So when you say given his history, because he's been to jail and he's on probation, right?
As far as we know, yes.
So any sort of repeat offense, they are perfectly happy to go out and arrest Ethan Ralph and bring him in.
Yes. At least on that. I mean, one thing I don't know is I don't know if that revenge porn is misdemeanor or felony. I think it's a felony.
It's a misdemeanor.
Oh, is it
the authorities that you spoke to before we move on, they were aware of who Ethan Ralph was?
Yes.
Right. Okay. I don't think any more needs to be said on that matter because we're getting into very sensitive legal territory here. We go forward. She's gone back to Ralph. You've had to fly home yourself. And now we're in a situation where she was appearing in those Story Fire videos, if you remember, where she didn't seem happy. Did you watch those videos where she's going on road trips with Ralph? Have you seen those videos? I've
seen a few of them. They're drives me nuts usually to watch stuff like that. But no, she doesn't seem happy.
Like, you know her. You've known her for 18 years of her life. You know when she's happy. You know when she's feeling awkward. Would you say she's feeling awkward?
From what I've seen, yes.
He's thrusting the phone camera into her face. He's ordering her to smile. Like, I don't know if you've heard how he talks to her, but it's as though he's talking to a dog. And it's awful. It really is. And I don't want to upset you, but it's the way he's talking to her is pretty bad.
Oh, agreed.
Well, the way he talks to us is pretty bad. So I wouldn't expect anything different.
But he's ordering her to smile. I implore you to go back and watch. But he's ordering her to smile. She's very uncomfortable. You can see that. It doesn't seem like they're loved up. It seems, I don't know. It seems very, very strange. But here we are right now. Okay, you've done a lot of things to try and bring her back. This is only one way, right, that you can win. But I do honestly believe, Mr. and Mrs. Vickers, that you standing and fighting at least gives you with a chance of bringing her back. You allow Ralph to just ruin everything, and you do nothing. He will happily ruin it and chew her up and spit her out.
Well, and I know a lot of people have said, "Oh, she's 18, just leave her alone and let her do what she wants." No, I mean, I don't care if she's 65. She's still my daughter. I don't know what mother can look me in the face and tell me at what age you stop trying to protect your child.
Mr. Vickers.
Yes.
What are your terms of surrender?
Of me surrendering or the gun surrendering?
Of the gun surrendering. What do you want for this to stop?
in the relationship, stop trying to get her pregnant, get her back where she can get the help that she needs when she's 20-something. If she's 24, 25, and she wants to get back in touch with you, I won't approve, but I won't try to stop it after she's had help.
We just want her to get help when she's healthy. If this is what Healthy Faith chooses to do, then there's nothing. I mean, again, we don't have to approve of it, but we're not going to interfere. She's not healthy right now. And that is the part that is unbearable every single day, to wake up and know my daughter won't even talk to me when she's sick and she needs me because Ralph clearly can't take care of her.
The number of texts I have from him where he's like, I can't get into this right now, I got to go work on my show, is baffling to my mind.
Okay, well, let's just get, you're a businessman. You trade in actual commodities. You've also dealt with guns and stuff like that. You both run a business. You both have real jobs with insurance. You both live in a nice home. What do you make of an internet celebrity who makes money via lemons?
I'm sorry, my laughter pretty much sums it up.
So it's just
that it's possible. That it's possible bewilders my mind.
Exactly. It's such a bizarre situation. But also,
everything about him repulses me. So that's the best I can sum it up as.
Is it not worrying, though, that if she does decide, or he coerces her into having his child, does it not worry you that he hasn't got a stable income, he hasn't got a career to speak of, he hasn't really got a future? Does that not worry you that he would fail to support the child?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've told him directly that, he's not capable of being a good father right now. Just isn't.
Well, and, for whatever anybody will say about Mrs. Vickers and I, those who haven't at least met us in person, dated for 4 years, married for 22, we've been together 26 years, with 5 kids, chronic health problems, no shortage of stress in our life before this, for various reasons. We have a pretty good idea of what it takes to maintain a stable, healthy relationship, and where it can't hold is when the foundation is made of sand, and when you have one person who's clearly unhealthy and the other person who's clearly a wretch of humanity. That's the very definition of an unstable foundation for a relationship.
I mean, Faith is told us she knows that what she did was wrong, as far as just taking off and not telling us where she was going and everything. She says she knows that that's wrong, but she doesn't know why it can't be good later, which again, I think is probably in large part the mental illness expressing itself.
Yeah, yes, I would agree.
To be sure, when I was courting Mrs. Vickers, I didn't start it with a bed of lies and some revenge porn.
And it being incredibly insulting to my dad.
Yeah, I mean, what a catch! What a catch, Mr. and Mrs. Vickers. What a great catch. Yeah.
No argument from us.
Yeah. What is the exit strategy? I just want to talk now. We're not far from Christmas. I can't see Ethan, Ralph, and Faith sharing a turkey in the crack shack at Christmas. I think she'll want to be home.
It out by the Christmas tree.
It won't be a Christmas tree. It'll be a stolen plant or something that he's put on his truck. But she will feel the pull of home. She will want to come home, be around her family. It'll be Christmas, and this will be a summer affair or something like that. So I just want to ask, what are your conditions of bringing her back? What's your strategy? How do you want, if you're talking to Faith now, I hope she is actually listening to this. What do you want to say to Faith how can she come back?
Well, first of all, I know that a lot of the complaint has been, why are you doing this in public? Again, because I'm not allowed to talk to my daughter. So, I mean, the first thing I would like is I would like her to talk to me. Then I don't have to do things like this as the only means of communicating with her. So that, to me, is kind of step one, is that she needs to have enough adultness to call her mother and simply talk to me. I mean, even when we were in person with her, we didn't, my husband said, we did not lay into her about anything about, why did you do this? How could you do this? You're so stupid for doing this, or anything like that. I mean, it's been nothing but support to her, even though she has lied to us and stabbed us in the back at practically every turn.
But do you recognize that the longer this goes on, the more she feels as though she can't go back on a decision, the more she feels as though she's deeper in the hole?
Yeah,
are you going to say that she's not, or are you going to say that, if she does call you, a great deal can be forgiven and forgotten?
Yes, because I want her home to get help. I mean, I love her. She's my daughter.
Yeah, and for some of my many assholish qualities, as I say, again, they're always primarily directed at the gun. I hope Faith is listening. I think she knows we love her, and I'll say it right now. Of course, we love our daughter. Sick or unsick, or with the gun or without the gun, we don't love the gun for certain, but we love our daughter. We want her to come home, not because we want her home, because that's our, overbearing will that she just do what we say. We want her to get back on the path that she was on before, which is the correct, smart, statistically probable success path of doing something with her life. The gun has said in texts that I've released that this may, a lot of people would say this is the perfect time for her to get pregnant, given that she wants to be a teacher. Oh, nobody fucking says that. Nobody with a brain would say that. She's on the path, and she's baby crazy for what, so far as I can tell, whether it be her illness, whether it be the guns convincing her. That's the path. It's an uphill battle, right? I'm not saying you can't have a baby at 18 and then you're always a loser. It's not a for certain, but you've certainly created an uphill battle to fix your life instead of just going the right path to begin with.
Yeah, and obviously he is filling her head with a lot of shit. He is around her 24/7. He is a very toxic influence. He's a worm in her ear. And you are battling through a wall. When you're making these appeals, you're battling through a wall because likely as you're making these appeals and she's listening to them and she's recognizing that her parents really do care for her, he's there saying, oh, they wouldn't do this if they like, they hate you, you can be with me and Digi Bro and Dick Masterson and we're your new family now.
I think that's pretty much exactly what he's saying to her.
Yeah, no,
and that's the most disturbing thing about all of this.
Yeah, he's essentially literally trying to take her away from us.
So I just want to say,
her whole family.
So you've clarified that step one is just call me, and we can have a conversation. What if she's too afraid to just call you? What are your other sort of offerings that she can accept to sort of rebuild whatever's going to come before Christmas?
Well, see, part of the problem right now is I don't think the Gunt has even enough money to get her a new cell phone. And so everything I send has to go through him.
Yeah.
And so
he'll cut off all her accesses to the outside world and all of her support, so he's got full dominance over her. That's what he'll do.
And apparently there's some agreement between the two of them. She won't even go online for the next year.
I don't think there's
So
any
this
way
is the
that's
agreement,
happening.
the same agreement that I had heard from sources close to Nora that he had.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, Nora had said him and her had, apparently money was involved. That he wouldn't go on she wouldn't be allowed to go online. So he wants her silence, right? He wants essentially like an NDA sort of thing, so he can protect his online reputation. What about her online reputation? What about him leaking her form all over the internet? Like, the man is a disgrace.
Yeah, I mean, he's a complete waste of humanity. But I think one of the most telling things was in the last text he sent me, which was, because remember, this is going to get dirty, and I'm already known as a dirty scumbag, and I'm so dirty that you can't do anything to humiliate or embarrass me or anything else. So just so you know, you're going to lose because basically I'm a piece of shit.
What a nice man. Yeah. What a kind soul. What a saint. Saint Ethan Ralph. Mr. Vickers, when your wife is reading you those texts, is your blood not boiling?
My blood has been from a simmer to a boil for the last couple of months, but that certainly raises it. Yeah, it's one of those, I got to kind of step away from the situation. Really, anytime you don't hear from me for several days on Twitter, it's because I've stepped away from the situation, because I don't want to do what the gut does, which is just respond right away and just be stupid. But yeah, no, it pisses me off to no end.
Well, his first line in that text, so that was the last line. The first line was, believe it or not, I'm sympathetic to you. I don't know if the fucking idiot knows what sympathetic means.
Yeah, what does he mean when he says, I am sympathetic to you? So what does he recognize that he is a controlling predator that's flown your daughter out and kept her prisoner? Like, does he recognize that? Is that why he's sympathetic?
No, he just said, hey, all he said after that was, I can't even imagine what's going on your end. So I don't know if it's that he doesn't allow himself to think about it, he doesn't have to care about it, or...
No, well, I mean, even in the...
You know.
Even in the original Rad Roberts emails, and then post Rad Roberts, where he revealed himself after I revealed him, he kept saying, "No, believe it or not, I do see things from your side." Like, no, you don't, because then you'd be coming out here, you'd be struggling. If you were seeing things from my perspective, Ethan Ralph, you would know what it's like to struggle every day to not buy a plane ticket and go shoot you in the face. Now, I'm not making a threat, so we're clear. But don't think it's not a
I will also clarify that was not a threat at all.
But don't think it's not a recurring fantasy running through the Vickers' head multiple times a day.
Or the mother's head. I know that there's this idea that, you know, moms are all sweet and tender and everything. I have just as much trouble not fantasizing about...
Mrs. Vickers also well-trained in the firearm arts.
And look, this is pure fantasy. This is pure, you know...
It's angry, hurt, scared parents.
But, yeah, they are parents. They are emotionally wounded. They are broken souls. My question is, if we're trying to get Faith back by Christmas, she's supposed to call you, but apparently he's controlling her phone and he's not, you know, she's not allowed to communicate with other people. Is there any way you can actually get professionals involved in this so you can have, mediation with your daughter?
We're looking at options.
Those are the options that we're looking at that we're not talking about publicly right now.
Okay, that's absolutely fine, because that's
showing too much of the hand.
Yeah, that's obviously fine. I just want you to know that there's such a wellspring of support on your side, beyond whatever showmanship or on whatever crazy stuff goes on the internet. You've just got to recognize that there's a genuine wellspring of emotion that comes when they see the people in the chat, the people that are watching this, when they see two parents that are broken, that have lost their daughter to somebody like Ethan Ralph. I can only imagine the pain you're going through. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. There is hope. There are many ways of being able to help Faith And if Ethan Ralph is at least, I don't know, if he does have a bit of humanity, then he could perhaps meet you halfway and at least try and get her looked over by mental health professionals in in Guntsville, Virginia. If he does that, I mean, that's a little bit of respect he gains, is it not?
It would help. It would really help if I saw that there was some proof that he was actually helping her.
Do you think she's drinking?
Yes, I basically know she is.
So she is under 21, right?
Yep.
Ralph himself is 16 years her senior. He is the one buying this alcohol and I assume supplying it to her, right? Unless where
I know 100% that he is either him or Dick supplied it to her in Southern California. And
we haven't even covered Southern California.
I know California law.
She goes to see she goes to see Ethan Ralph whilst Ethan Ralph is at Dick Masterson's house, right?
Correct.
Just quickly, do you know who Dick Masterson is, or did you know who he was before you knew about, Ethan Ralph?
Didn't have a clue before all this.
Did you not see him on that Pizza Hut commercial 15 years ago?
If I did,
we must have missed it.
I don't remember. Probably because we're too old to remember.
15 years ago. I mean, the man in this sphere is, our equivalent to, I don't know, Tom Cruise, The world's most famous man, Dick Masterson, is completely unknown to even people who live in California. So that's pretty funny. But
yeah,
do you not think it's a bit crazy that she goes to see Ethan Ralph at Dick Masterson's home, the mansion,
with my money because she lied about what she was doing?
I know you don't want to get into this, but do you think that her and Ralph had a menage a trois during the Dick Masterson? Like, did they copulate in the mansion, or was it simply just a meeting?
As far as a menage a trois, I don't have, and as I said,
I don't have any. There's no evidence of that.
I've been through her Discord from the point they met to the point she went to LA, and then there's a break. And then from the point she got back to LA from well into August. And I've been through all of that. And first, let me assure you, that was no fun. But second, no. I mean, I absolutely, the Gun and Faith were hooking up. And afterwards, she was hoping at that point she was
pregnant.
Right. So they were hooking up, Dick Masterson's mansion. He'd sort of did they hook up in the mansion? Like, did they stay in a room, or?
Yeah, he can't afford a hotel. That's where they stayed.
Right.
And
so I suppose
that's always
question for Dick Masterson for allowing this, right? I mean, he has to answer some sort of questions for allowing this to happen under his own roof and enabling it.
Yeah, he's going to say she was 18. What do I care?
Yeah,
that's what I keep saying. Everybody keeps saying, "Oh, she's 18." Oh, since she's 18, first of all, as parents, we should just back off and say, "Fuck our daughter." I don't care how sick she is; she can go fuck up her life. I mean, it's like it seems impossible to me that people don't understand that the whole reason that we're seeming so involved in everything is because we love our daughter and want to make sure she's okay. And her age has no fucking bearing on that whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with that. I mean, I think most sort of normal, well-functioning people are in agreement with that. It's only people like Dick Masterson, funnily enough, and his entourage, Digibro, Riley, Ethan Ralph, that do we allow, oh, well, she's 18, she can do what she wants argument. You know, as long as there's grass on the pitch, it's just not a very nice worldview to have, I have to say.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if he believes in morality, to be honest. I mean, it doesn't appear from the conversations we've had via text and email that he even thinks there's such a thing as morality.
Well, he's trying to start the United Church of the Gut, which teaches zero morality.
Do you not think that perhaps... So she goes to meet Ralph, Dick Masterson's mansion. Like, I know it's not a mansion, but okay, it's in the Hollywood Hills. It's all of this. Do you not think that, okay, she's a bit starstruck. She's got a perception of Ethan Ralph that's different. Like, he hangs out with this guy who lives in a mansion, this celebrity.
Yeah, you actually called it 100%, especially based on those Discord conversations. Because it wasn't just Dick. I mean, there was all these other people that were involved in it, and the show, and people she's heard about. And, I don't know how you grew up in California and that's what you're starstruck with, but okay. But that's absolutely part of it, yeah.
Yeah, she was trying to get away from, because we went down there to do something else, actually, while she was down there. And so we said, hey, why don't you come over and at least have dinner with us once, because the little boys miss you. And
oh, shit, I haven't told this story.
And
yeah, go ahead.
She fought like a cat to get out of the hotel room before the pizza had even been delivered.
Hang on, let me rewind. What I didn't mention in the timeline because I wanted to go into more details later because it's just, the timeline's already a tenth of a fucking novel, and, I don't want to make people fall asleep reading it. But we ended up having to go down to Southern California just a couple days after she was there, and it was unplanned. But we were trying. My dad died 2.5 years ago, and hoarder. There's a bunch of stuff there. But the one thing I wanted to get off the property was this car that didn't work. So we were down in Southern California trying to get this car off the property. And Faith made all these plans. Ooh, she was going to come out to see us, and she was going to visit an ex-boyfriend whose name, Ariana, I'm not using. So just so you're aware of that story. But to see an ex-boyfriend who, the whole family, we love this guy. The whole family's friends with him. We're still in contact with him. He's heartbroken over this situation. And so he went out to pick her up, but he went and checked into a hotel. She took an Uber to see him, and then they came out to meet us for dinner. Well, it wasn't until they got there at 7:30 that she's like, well, I got to leave at 8:30. What? Why? Because, at that point, we thought she was just still staying with friends. And I mean, this guy took her back, the ex-boyfriend. She wouldn't let him drop her off at the house. She made him drop her off like a block away. So and it was all because she needed to get back in time for Kill Stream, which we, months later.
No, it was because they were actually going to a party, and she wanted to get a picture with Destiny, and they left without her.
Oh, my bad.
So she wanted a picture with, is it Stephen Bonnell, the Destiny guy? Is that correct?
I guess. All I know is it said Destiny. So
that
again, being otherwise ignorant.
So there are all of these people that are connected. They've all got this weird sort of seedy association, and they're soliciting this girl. They're trying to get her to be starstruck so that Ethan Ralph can, It's not great, is it? It looks pretty grubby to me. It looks very Epsteinian, I have to say. It doesn't look great.
Yeah, no, I mean, every time I hear a new association with someone, my heart falls, and I didn't think it could fall anymore.
Yeah. It's just devastating, totally devastating.
One thing, I just want to say, if she's listening, I want her to hear this and hear this clearly. The worst day of my whole fucking life is the day I walked through that door after I came back. And her little brothers wanted to know where she was.
Yeah, we didn't have the heart to tell the little ones until we got back because we wanted to tell them in person. They had expected her to be coming back the entire time.
Have you explained the whole situation, or have you just said that she's away for a bit?
It depends on the child.
Yeah.
They're 3 to 16.
Yeah, so the 3-year-old doesn't really know what's going on because he's 3. He sees her picture and she goes nuts. She sees her picture and then he goes nuts and, Fei. The 6-year-old understands enough to not like Ethan Ralph, and at least on 2 occasions per week, and he says it kind of cutely, so we don't really jump on it that much, says, is today the day we're going to beat up Ethan Ralph and take all his stuff? And he doesn't. The 12-year, he's almost 12. The 12-year-old, he's the most broken up about it. He was the one fighting with her the most before she ran off, so I think he has a lot of blame. We're certainly going to get the whole family into counseling, sans faith, if we have to, just so everybody can deal with it. The oldest brother is almost 16, and he is reacting how you would expect a 16-year-old boy to react. He's pretty much on the warpath right along with me. I keep him out of it as much as I can.
Yeah, just stop him from loading up a YouTube channel. Stop that.
Well, yeah. So he doesn't do that, but he's. It's funny because he's supportive, and so much of this is it's our form of therapy too. But they're all dealing with it, I think, in their own way. But we don't involve them in the dirt of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hopefully it won't be prolonged. Hopefully she will be back by Christmas. I cannot see her not being back by Christmas.
I sadly can't. She's very stubborn, and she a lot of this, I think, is her way of saying I have control over you guys, because she's essentially emotionally torturing us, and she knows it. And I think she's enjoying the fact that she has that control, that she can make me cry every day and get her dad so upset. And I think that's the mental illness.
Yeah.
She's having a hard.
Some help.
She's either denying the reality of how much she's hurting us, or, like I said, it's unfortunately much more serious than that, and that she, for some reason, is lacking empathy.
It's a toxic combination of her mental illness and Ethan Ralph denying.
Is he will respond. He will respond. You know what he's like. You know that he will try and smear your names through the mud for speaking your truth. You know that he won't he won't just roll over. You know he's told you himself he's a scumbag. He's covered in shit, and he will cover you in shit. Are you afraid of Ethan Ralph?
I'm only afraid of him in the sense of what could hurt our sons.
Yeah.
So, now I have to say this: I don't think that there's much of anything he can do with our business. Our clients, literally, the reason our business is so successful is because our clients are so loyal to us. They have seen my children grow up in the shop, including Faith. One of our customers gave her money for college.
And like Mr. Vickers, the man is now trying to go after your children, which if you didn't think there was a level he could stoop to, now he has. There has to be some sort of legal recourse to stop him from making these claims and doing this stuff, right?
Certainly. I mean, when I take... So, first of all, I am certainly not afraid of Ethan. He poses no physical threat. He poses no intellectual threat. He poses no monetary threat to me or to our family. But what I will say, the only thing he has to fall back on, because he is used to getting in the mud, he's used to getting dirty. The difference is I don't live in the mud. I don't have dirt. I'm a clean guy. There's nothing to find on me. The only thing he has the ability to do is to lie. And the good thing is, because we own a business and because our income is tied to that business, second he tells a lie, I'm going to fuck him. And I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. And that's because it's the only thing he can do is do something illegal to try and hurt us.
There are stories of him attending restaurants in Knoxville and then being thrown out of that restaurant for being belligerently drunk. And then
Chris, when you get thrown out of a restaurant in Knoxville.
Yeah. Exactly right. And he ordered his followers to review bomb that restaurant. Just review bomb them and try and bring down their business. So that's the sort of person we're talking about.
Oh, yeah. A tactic I've anticipated. I keep watching my reviews and I don't see anything. Thankfully, these days, it's pretty easy to get that stuff taken down. I've already been in contact with Google and Yelp and told them that I'm dealing with this kind of person. So just the anticipation that if I start flagging negative reviews, they'll have a heads up to get them down. But I haven't gone that route yet.
We have also talked to the local law enforcement here to warn them.
Definitely keep in touch with law enforcement and, I don't know, any solicitor. You need to be very covered on this. Because, like I say, this man is dirty. He will do whatever. This is what I'm anticipating because I know what he's like. I know his history of doing this stuff. I think he'll get her to sit down with him on camera. They'll do a show, a quote-unquote show, where he coerces a sort of weird statement out of her where she says that she's been abused as a child. You know what I mean? By her family as a child.
That's exactly what his threat is to do.
And that's what he will do.
He phrases it as, "Oh, well, it's Faith who wants to do it. I've just been holding her back."
Yeah. But the thing is, he's going to allow her. He's going to give her this audience. He's going to broadcast it on DLive and Twitter and YouTube, and then he's going to give her all of the means of access for which to do that. I would expect that. I really would, but. Do not be afraid. And I hope everybody, when that does happen, you remember that Mr. and Mrs. Vickers are everything entirely contrary to Ethan Ralph. These people are to be trusted, believed, and not Ethan Ralph and whatever games he's going to play next.
Yeah,
Mr.
I mean,
that's
the one thing I can promise you is we haven't said one dishonest thing to you.
No, and there's no need to even question your integrity at this point. We can hear from your own voices that it's a world that I don't want to ever be involved. Like, I never want to be in the nightmare scenario that you are in at the moment. And before we came live, you said that you wanted to be a warning for other parents.
Yes.
That could you elaborate on that, Mr. and Mrs. Vickers?
Yeah, I had said that basically the reason that we are coming so public, there's two reasons. First is I can't talk to my daughter directly. This is the best I've got. The second thing, which is very important to me, is I want to be able to warn other parents of how this happened, that it did happen, that there is this culture out there that feeds on these girls. And anything I can do to stop somebody else from going through this nightmare.
And Mr. Vickers, do you have anything to add to that?
Repeat the question. I'm sorry. I was listening to Mrs. Vickers and I got lost in her voice.
Well, you want to be a warning to other parents going through this or that could go through this.
Yeah, certainly. It's and I've said before, I'm not perfect. Nobody's a perfect parent. We certainly don't claim to be. I deny outright that we're absolute fuck up parents. But my biggest regret is giving her a phone and as much access and leeway to the internet. Now, on the surface, she was always a good kid, and so that's why she had the leash that she had. Now, I don't think, because heard some back and forth on this. I don't think it's the access to the internet that caused the problem any more than I think violent video games create school shooters. Difference between causation and correlation. But whatever issue she had was absolutely exacerbated by her connection and influence by this ridiculous world that she's got herself tied up into.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I did want this to be as comprehensive as possible. I wanted you to go on the record about everything that you wanted to cover. Is there anything that we have missed, Mr. and Mrs. Vickers, that we would like to get into?
Go ahead.
So I guess the one thing I'd like to say too, though, is that especially for any girls in the same situation, even if you think that you can justify why it's okay to hurt your parents that much, maybe thought they were too strict or whatever, consider the rest of the family. Because, like I said, our whole extended family and friends are just as devastated as we are.
And yes, I would add, and it's cleared something up earlier when I had said, I made a note of it to make sure that I cleared it up before the end. When I said sadly that Ethan and Faith weren't in contact when she was 17, by sadly, I of course mean because then there would be some more legal avenue to deal with him. Yeah. But otherwise, no. And the only thing I would add is if there's any question about what we're doing and why, it's because the more I draw the gun out in his world, the more he has to come into mine. And when he comes into mine, that's going to be bad for him.
And there we go. I'm going to wrap it up, Mr. and Mrs. Vickers. You've been amazing guests. And what we try to do on this show is bring families together, or at least more human than what else is going on in this sphere. I'm very grateful that you've agreed to speak to me, gone this lengthy on the record. All I can offer is gratitude and thanks. And I really do hope that you reconcile with Faith, you cut Ethan Ralph out of her life, and you have a great Christmas this year.
Thank you very much for your time.
You've been you've been very fair and kind with us, and I appreciate that. I was a little bit nervous, seeing the rest of this world, but very kind and reasonable.
Okay, thank you very much. Phantom, we can cut the stream now. Thank you.
All right. See you guys.